what I see that IP is something that people do not like that much. Patent language or IP language is like a foreign language for many people, and you just need to hear some words and concepts often enough to implement it.
When every word is important, especially in a patent application, then you just look at language completely differently.
I need to transfer the knowledge how I read the patents and how I think it is the useful way to go forward with these documents. In an hour, we could check 3 of them, and we had like 20 on the list. 1 year after this transformation, we are able to check like 20 patents in an hour.
Wow. Hi everyone, welcome in today's podcast episode, where we chat with IP professionals about real challenges, lessons, and stories behind managing intellectual property. Today I'm joined by Katalin Sólyom, who has built her career at the intersection of scientific research and intellectual property. After nearly a decade in chemical engineering and biotech research, she transitioned into IP management, where now she leads IP management and Gehring Technologies. Katalin, welcome.
Thank you, David. Welcome.
So, for those who don't know you yet, could you please give us a brief introduction of how you got into IP?
Thank you, David, for the introduction. I think it's a good overview of my career. Maybe I would add the reason why I changed from research to IP. It was mainly my curiosity into the intersection of technology, business, and legal aspects, which I can find in the world of IP.
Whenever I talk with IP managers, they always tell me, David, our job is so versatile because it's business, engineering, or sort of research, and then, of course, the legal intersection. What is the most exciting for you?
I really like new technologies when something new is coming up, and so I can get just new knowledge. And also, I really like how then IP can change or just play in this field of business, and how it can add some value to the whole process.
One of the previous podcast interviewees told me that many of the management members and leadership don't actually recognize oftentimes the value of IP. They often see it as a necessity, as a must-have, instead of a strategic asset or sort of a tool to generate more business value. How do you navigate that sort of asymmetry of mindsets? And have you ever encountered that?
What I see that IP is something that people do not like that much, because either they like technology or they like business or they like legal, and it is something, it's a field where maybe you can feel like I don't know enough from all the sections to be the expert and to make good decisions. No one likes this kind of feeling. I have no information enough. I'm not the expert on this field, so how can I make this decision? But on the other hand, they know this is a must, even if it's strategically inbound. For many people, it's just the feeling it's a must and I have to get through there. I have also other fields in my life where I feel the same. So I feel like, okay, no problem. I will help you. I will give you the information you need. We will find the point where you are in your information load. What do you need to make the decision in a way that you feel good with that?
So walk me through what happened when you joined Gehring Technologies. Have you encountered this, or what level was the understanding of IP management when you entered the company?
When I entered the company, I had this position on my own. In the first few months, I had the help of a really experienced technology and IP professional. He was doing this here for 20 years,
Mm.
and he was working in the company for more than 30 years. So I think that was a kind of life experience in the company, which was a huge challenge for me. How can I continue that one? And this was also the point where I understood it's really important to understand the culture in the company, how decisions are made, which information is there, which maybe doesn't have to do with IP. But it's not just IP itself and the legal aspect, but much more.
So, if I understand you correctly, it's also a cultural challenge sometimes, but also a knowledge gap.
Yes.
And how did you navigate the cultural challenge of decision making and communication when you entered? And what you, I assume, wanted to do is map out who has what information and sort of get the ball rolling with the IP strategy.
I'm coming from the research side, and I was working on process optimization. So it was for me like, okay, the connection with R&D was not that difficult, and I was looking at the processes and how is it running and how it works, and so how could I make it a little bit better, but also to see, even if you have like great ideas, maybe you see, okay, but they don't want to change. And it's also an interesting point, and where you have to look at, okay, why don't they want to change? What is still good enough in the process? And what is not good enough in my new idea? And how can I combine the two things, that we maybe go further to new directions, but also keep old good points of processes so that you can take people better with you.
Going back to what you discussed now, that you come from the research side, and of course you found good fit with the R&D department or area in the company. Have you tried setting up alignment meetings with other areas of the business as well, or were you only focusing first on getting the perfect image from the R&D and then move on one by one to the other sections?
At the beginning, it was mostly R&D and the discussions with our CTO.
Mhm.
So in our company, IP is already on a really high level when it comes to discussions with the management. So this is something that I didn't have to fight for, let's say. What I was learning a little bit on the way is the group of sales and marketing and so on, how IP could affect daily business.
What was the point, or was there a point where you felt that now I'm making progress in sort of helping them understand better the alignment between IP, the business performance, and of course the product?
There were some experiences where I had the feeling, okay, something went through. I really like the moments when my colleagues tell me aspects of IP as it was really included in their opinion,
Mm.
and there are recognized my own sentences.
Mm.
It's not because these are my own sentences. It's because I feel like, okay, they have really built it in. They know they know what it is about. It's not just like telling something I have heard, but they are working with this knowledge
Mm.
on their daily business. And it can be for sales. It can be when they come back from a trade fair and comes with passion, or sending videos from others like, look at that, can we check it, did we see it already, or uh, also with the R&D, when I send for them and it comes back like in a really short term, with not just, okay, we don't need to care about this, but maybe with a short description, this button is about that and that, it affects us in this context, or or not. But if you see like the information have been processed,
Mm. How much time do you
this
think it took you to get those first positive snippets of sentences, your own words coming back to you?
some years.
Some years. Okay. So it took quite many alignment meetings. Okay.
Yes, and also not just like huge alignment meetings, but it's really on a personal
Hmm.
level sometimes because not all the people have the same initial information or the same motivation to understand it, and also not always the same way to learn things or how the information get to this person.
I assume it must be a really great feeling after years of doing this work to hear your own words back and see people actually including your knowledge and IP into their sort of their daily job or their decision-making process.
Yes, definitely.
Has anything changed, for example, in R&D or in sales or in finance once you started feeling that they are seeing the value of IP? Have they started making decisions differently than before, or was everything going in a very similar manner?
I think most processes are somehow faster
Mhm.
because we can process this information much faster than before. For example, in R&D, at the beginning, I was sending like lists of new patents or patent applications, and there were like no information coming back. Then we established like a live roundtable where we were um, discussing about these patents. At the beginning, the missing point was that the colleagues didn't have the time or the motivation
Mm,
to check those patents before. So it was like just like new documents for all of them. So like in an hour, we could check 3 of them, and we had like 20 on the list. So it was not really efficient because when I asked him like, do you know how to read a patent? Yeah, more or less I know. So I realized if I want the feedback I think would be proper, and I think that would be useful for them for the future because some patents or applications are coming back again from time to time. So it's really great when you don't have to read them every time.
yeah.
And for that, you need like good feedbacks on that document so that you don't need to read it again. And this was the point where I thought, okay, then I need to transfer the knowledge how I read the patents and how I think it is the useful way to go forward with these documents, and also the way of feedback that we should get for each document, so it can be easier to process those information in the future.
Mm.
1 year after this transformation, we are able to check like 20 patents in an hour,
Wow.
and the colleagues are really fit in
Wow.
in reading and processing this information. So
So going from reviewing 3 patents under 1 hour, you went to reviewing 20 patents in an hour in
yeah,
basically 1 year. That's very impressive. Congratulations. Wow. So decision making became more efficient. But then also, let's talk about the quality of the decisions. Have you really looked at whether the decisions that you made on the business side has become much more conscious and better looking into, what happened over the last 5 years and what decisions you have made over the last 5 years?
I think there was also an important growth in information, um, which they can process. It's really difficult to get decisions for processes like, do we file? Is it the priority year is over? Now we can go further, or after the periods, we can choose the countries, or in Europe, is it a validation phase? Even if we are talking about any document, is it a patent or patent application? There are so many words there which are important concepts behind. And if someone is not using it correctly, then you don't know what's the concept behind this word for this person.
Mm.
And of course, if these concepts, maybe there are just 10 words which are really important to know what does it mean. Because then when we are talking to each other and I say patent application, then I know that the other person checks it's not granted. Or if I say a patent, the person doesn't think, okay, we are still waiting for something from the office. And it's just time at every decision making. If you make the question, shall we go further with this patent? And like, okay, what does it mean? And then you explain it again and again and again. And at some point you see, okay, they understand the same what you are saying. So the decision making can be much more smooth.
Mm.
But it's also understandable because it's not coming like every day, or sometimes also not every week. We are not a huge company. We don't have a portfolio of 2,000 patents. Many decisions come like quarterly or even once a year.
Mhm.
So it's just normal that people who are not working with these expressions, even if they have learned it sometime, at the moment they just cannot relate it to anything. So I was learning some foreign languages, and I know how difficult it is if you hear a word and you know, I have heard it, but I don't really know what that means exactly. So I think this kind of patent language or IP language is like a foreign language for many people, and you just need to hear some words and concepts often enough to implement it in your brain.
I love that. I think that's such a nice analogy on how the IP industry works in terms of terminology. It's just when every word is important, especially in, in a patent application, then you just look at language completely differently. And you need to
Yes.
understand what every single word means exactly to make sure that you cover the right technology with the right solution. I just love that. So, did you have any specific ways whereby you prepared for these conversations, or you just went into it and tried your best always to that's on the same page?
I prepare, of course, with a kind of list, but I think it's everyone does the same. Which are the decisions we have? And I really have some general sentences if it's about the different processes that we have to decide so that people hear the same information and not explaining it in different ways. And I also try to prepare for questions
Mm.
like what can affect the decision, the current technological state that we have, or the business. If there is a decision to make, there are some informations that I can collect from the colleagues, and some informations I ask in the round, okay, how are the plans in this direction?
So, how much of those decisions have come from hard data versus intuition and experience?
I I think a lot of IP data just cannot be hard. um,
Let's just say
Of
numbers.
course, of course you can, yeah, of course you can put a number on it. But most numbers are percentages. And if it's about percentage, of course, the decision that comes may be influenced by intuition.
Mhm.
And I don't think that it's bad. It's good to be aware of which kind of bias am I thriving at the moment. There is a book I really like from Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. And there is a point there, it calls VCRT. What you see is all there is. And this means like making decisions based slowly on the information that is available. And I think this could happen if you only rely on numbers. And I would also add the question, is there something else that we are not taking into account? Or is there something else that we cannot put in our numbers? Because these numbers are coming from different functions. And these functions were made to a certain time with certain assumptions. So it's great to check if those assumptions are still fine for the current decisions.
So once you make a decision, that I assume maybe 1 or 2 years down the road, you evaluate whether that decision was correct or not.
Yes,
So do you have a process for evaluating past decisions?
many processes are coming back again and again
Hmm.
because because IP is kind of there are cycles. It's just 100% that you will reevaluate your decisions again at the annuity payment deadlines where you see, okay, maybe we made um, a really wide portfolio for something. We were hoping 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, this will flourish, and then we get there and see, no, it didn't. Or it did, but it's not there at some countries or so. And I think it's also important to see it's not about good and bad decisions. It's just about, okay, as we decided, we had those informations and we made those assumptions. And now it's another time in business, in technology. So we have to maybe change the route.
The last part of your sentence where you said it could be another time in technology might be very, very relevant for a lot of companies in nowadays macro environment, especially because there is so much uncertainty, so much change, and with AI, now many industries and technologies are changing very fast. And I assume it's very similar for the automotive industry and the other industries that your company or Gehring Technology is serving as well. Do you also personally experience that you need to radically change the patent strategy or the IP management that you have been doing and using new tools and new frameworks to navigate today's environment?
Absolutely. But I think it's mostly maybe new tools if it comes maybe to bigger portfolios so that you have to check if the current processes are up to date to that much of data. Of course, the question of freedom to operate and checking what's out there. I think most companies are searching maybe on a monthly basis. They have like a search portfolio which are just running automatically. And I think it's really important to check new companies in the field. Are there new type of products in the field? So it's not like keep things running because even if you get enough data to process, maybe it's not 100% the data that you really need to process.
So, in reality, as I understand, some of the technologies that you are using is serving industries where basically they give you the requirements of what products they will be building. For example, being part of the OEM industry requires you to be very flexible towards your consumer, and they need to be very flexible towards, of course, regulatory changes, but also their own customers as well. So it's sort of like business to consumer at the end of the day.
Yes.
How does this affect IP management?
I think we are not that free in how we would like to make our products. because it must fit in the OEM world and their regulations. Also, our company is building machines for the production of the OEM products. So it's really based on the product itself. And for us, it's really important flexibility, modularity, agility to kind of follow these changes in the products nowadays, which can come really fast. I know older times here at the company, there was not much change in the product itself, but there were different features which were made just better and better and better. So it was also not a complete change in the machine, but maybe just part of the machine. And nowadays it's like the complete different product, or the assembly is completely different. Then we have to ask ourselves, okay, is it even possible to build it with our machine concept, or we really have to make a complete different concept for this product?
How often do you think the priorities change or the technology change now compared to when you joined the company?
We are talking about e-mobility now,
Yes.
exactly. And what I haven't seen yet is a product consolidation,
Mm-hmm.
which was definitely there with the classical technologies. There was a consolidated product, there was like small incremental changes. And what we see nowadays that the motors itself, they change so much that it's no consolidation.
That's a point where we can move on to the sort of the second part of this podcast, which we call rapid fire IP confessions, which is essentially just a few short questions that I want you to just answer on top of your mind. So just whatever comes to you, the first word, the first sentence, just feel free to say it. What's the most boring part of IP work?
Fair enough. I think for me, the most boring would be to do the same part of it every day or a whole week.
So repetitiveness?
Yes, and if it takes like long,
Mm,
like every day the same.
yeah.
As you told at the beginning, this is a really versatile field. Nevertheless, I think there are people who are just working with one slice of it, like the whole time. And I think this would be for me boring.
What's the single biggest lesson you've carried forward in your career?
Listen and understand.
I love that. If you had to cut 20% of your portfolio tomorrow, what would be the first thing you would do?
I would check the portfolio and look at the oldest patents we have.
What excites you most about IP in the next 5 years?
Building strategy and how it can really being part of adding value to business and how it will evolve in other companies.
And the last question that's coming from the former interviewee is, how do you assess the value of your patents?
That's a great question. I would assess it based on, are we using it ourselves? Is it in the product so that we can go that way with the product? Is it disturbing another company? This could be another way of assessing its value, or are we licensing this one on
Fantastic.
that?
That's all. Thank you so much, Katalin, for participating in this podcast episode. Your insights were fantastic. I personally learned so much, and I hope our audience will also appreciate the insights that you brought. Thank you for your time and for participating as well.
Thank you for your invitation.